Good afternoon, good evening. Prep and Prosper here. Hope you guys are having a good week and got a good show for you today. Um, we're going to start with something a lot of landlords, property owners, investors, property managers do not want to hear, and that is just one tenant. That's all it takes. One tenant can destroy your investment. This is not a this is not going to be a video that's going to bash people or bash a certain type of property. No, this is just going to be a video on talking about how one tenant can destroy your investment, how screening matters, getting the right people in your community and your population together does matter. You want to make sure you are following all fair housing laws. This is not going to go against any type of fair housing, but it's going to go over just some, we talk about risk and inspections on this channel, but um, over time doesn't even take long. Sometimes it can be a few months, but it is a an issue to where we're going to talk about tonight how this could be done, and the damage could be done already. So a lot of my leasing agents, property owners, you probably already know this. Today is the 12th. You've already sent out your late notices. Um, Rent is due. This is the time you are looking at sending in, talking about evictions or turnover or potential turning over of the unit. If you hadn't got there, you want to make sure. Another thing too, since we're talking about evictions here, if you're sending late letters out or you know you have people that are late on the rent, it is a good thing to go ahead and have a resource guide in your community of churches, nonprofit agencies, anybody that's going to help with rental assistance. So don't, really good tip. Don't just send out late letters that, hey, you're late on rent. Pretty sure they know that. You do want to charge your late fees, but you also want to give them some options. So we're going to start here pretty soon. Like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about how a one tenant you probably should never rent to. If you can avoid this type of tenant, you want to. And this is not just senior housing. This is not population specific. This is just going to be on how bad decisions can kill occupancy. To where a lot of times with property managers, we're trying to get occupancy up because we do have investors and we have numbers and goals to meet. However, you do know that there are some new laws, or there are laws. Not an attorney. Find this out. Call call an attorney. Check at your compliance department to where it does give you some more protection. So because leasing is not just the paperwork involved, it is risk management. So again, let's repeat: leasing is not just paperwork. A lot of times we see our applications, we getting copies of income verifications, we're getting copies of asset verifications, and it is a lot of paperwork. But it's really, leasing is risk management, and I'm going to show you how in this whole entire video tonight that this is going to help you leasing agents out. This is going to help property. It's going to help a lot of you guys out. Um, Let me be clear. This is not a theory. This is something I've worked in affordable housing. I've worked in high risk communities. I've done homeless outreach. And I've seen this. So I'm going to share with you a few things. And tonight we're just going to go over a lot of things that the property managers we do discuss. But hey, we got to do what we have to do. So let's just say most of the time now, I know here in Nashville, rents can go for whatever, but let's just use a leasing amount. You have a family. Most people are looking for family units. Let's be really cheap, $1,500 a month. If you have the wrong tenant, this is going to be a lot of months of missed rent, and it's going to be missed rent from that tenant. A pest control issue. Think of your pest control costs. Think of your legal fees. Think of the damages that you may have, and not just there. If you don't get the tenant out in a certain time, you could lose potential other tenants. Your other tenants, they'll decide to leave before this tenant. You can even evict them. So we want to make sure you have a good selection plan in place, but not just that. You want to make sure you put in place things in your community to not lose money. We don't want to lose money as investors. Okay, so let's talk about occupancy. Occupancy drops. everybody panics. So, what is the first thing we typically do? And I've seen this as a floating manager, as an operations specialist. I have seen this all across the portfolios. And if you look at, there's going to be a chart we're going to discuss later on. It's going to be on occupancy trends. We're seeing occupancy in certain areas drop, especially in certain areas like Nashville, Austin. It's dropping, and then the first thing we do is we rush to approve another applicant. Um, that could be a very it could lead to a lot of problems. So if you invest and you have a property, don't just chase occupancy. I know our other videos was on occupancy. Don't just chase occupancy. You want to chase stability of your residence. You want to have someone that's going to not only pay, but that is going to take care of your property. Well, first thing is pay on time, take care of your property, be a good neighbor, be in the community, be a good neighbor. This is going to overall benefit cleanliness. So this is going to be something you have to do. So next few minutes, we're just going to go over. So a lot of tenant profiles that create massive risks. So if you have an approval process, or depending on your compliance departments, if you have an approval process, make sure you're looking at revenue loss and turnover, but you want to make sure you're leasing to the right people. And if your leasing department is not on the same page as your upper management and they want to rush to get everything done for numbers, 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 they have to understand that getting the wrong person in there is going to shape the community and how your community is seen. And it's not just inside of your community now, it is your social media and your online presence. You can destroy your online presence very quickly. And it takes a very similar to us as people, you can build your character, and we know people, and we it takes years to build our character, but one mistake can kind of really damage that to where it takes you years to build trust back up with people. So remember what I said, if you own the property, you want to make sure you and your property manager is hand in hand, and really wanting to take care of your property and not just get occupancy filled. So another thing we want to do too is when you look at the type of resident you want to have your selection criteria in place, as I mentioned before, do all your checks, do your correct income verifications. We know now we're in a digital age where you do have to do a little more due diligence, especially if you're requiring income and people are forging pay stubs or income verification documents. You still want to be diligent on having a good process as best as you can. Um, Next thing we want to do, let's look at some of the things on how some of the new laws may be helping. Read these for yourself, especially the ones in Tennessee. It could be in 2026. We do have some bills that are coming up to where it could cut a notice period from 14 days to 17 days to 7 days for non-payment of rent and property damage. We know we have those notices 14 days to cure. This could drop to 7 days for serious violations. This does not affect the 3-day violations for some of the violent things that we normally know about too. What this can do is it'll affect the 14 to 7 days to where if it's people that don't want to pay rent, those that cause damage. So this is just Tennessee. Look in your local area and come up with your talk to your politicians in the area. See if you can either attend meetings or see how your landlord laws or your tenant laws affect you and what you're going to do. Another thing too, bad tenants could cause a lot of criminal complaints. When you have the criminal complaints in the area, you're going to build this in a database of the crime stats in the area. So new renters are going to pull the crime stats. And when they pull crime stats in the area, a lot of the good tenants that you would have gotten in the first place are not going to apply for the units that we have. One of the questions that I had was, if your occupancy drops, then how do I explain to my region? That's what I was saying. You have to have a really good relationship with your management company, with your supervisors. Of have a plan in place. Don't just say, "Hey, we're going to take everybody," or you have to understand. Have a plan in place to where you're going to market to open areas. You're going to market to all individuals, and you're going to really get the occupancy up. And you're going to go through your selection plan exactly how it is. You're not going to cut corners. You're not going to waive anything just because occupancy is down. So, for instance, if you have something to where your rent is a certain amount or they have to make a certain amount, don't just drop that because of occupancy and you get the wrong individual in there that cannot afford to pay the rent. So, you do want to run landlord verifications. You want to do credit checks, criminal checks. What if they owe a past landlord? What if they're moving a lot every 2 or 3 years? I'm not talking about individuals that are serving our country or have different transit jobs like that. We're just looking at individuals that if you notice a pattern in income, their income is not consistent. You still want to make sure you do your verification checks on them. You do want to run, um, depending on your policy, you may want to do a checking average of their pay stubs, last two, last four, last six pay stubs. You can also send verification if you think the pay stubs are off. If you notice the format is off, create a verification form, have that applicant sign it, and send it to the employer. If the employer does not have a legit business email account, if it's a Yahoo or Gmail, then get a business card. Call them, get a business card, and still send that email. So one of the things you want to do a bad leasing tenant could cause is how to build our social media presence back up. We're going to go over that in a separate video. Probably next week, we're going to talk about our social media and how to get that back up. Um, Remember, as a property owner, some of the things you have to do is landlords. You have to have your tenants have to have a way of contacting you. So got to have maintenance contacts, 24-hour emergency contacts, and a communication method on them. So having a good tenant, that's going to all tie into it. So one of the things we saw here in Nashville is a good story from this week. Um, there was a story on News 5 about a property management company here. Remember, we had the video on towing. Make sure they know your towing policy. That was a huge, it's a news story here to where property management company, they're not getting back to them. Please get back to them. They're not getting back to they're not on site. They're not answering any maintenance requests. But here in Nashville, there's a property management company that are they've had this issue of towing. The residents are fed up. It's turning into a huge ordeal. You've got news crews involved now, and now you're getting council people stepping in. Remember, have your policy, your parking policy clearly marked. Have your signs up. It's not a bad idea to send in a newsletter, in a monthly reminder, the parking policy. Be proactive as a landlord. If you're noticing a trend, I know we want to get our fees and everything, but if you're noticing a trend of a lot of cars are getting towed and you're having issues, you're going to have to deal with that in the office as a property manager. So one of the things you can be proactive on is you can continue to go to the office and get yelled at, or you can also send out a monthly reminder of the parking policy. And if they don't follow it, then it is what it is. Um, but there's a good story here of how I thought it was pretty cool to where it tied into um, have a good contract in investors with a towing company. Have everything um, your eyes crossed because you never know with any kind of people may do any kind of litigation. People get very upset when their cars are towed. And remember, occupancy too and the parking is not just marketing, it's our leasing team. They need to explain to everyone. So we want to create a good community. And if everybody knows in the community, they're going to spread the word. They're going to say, like, hey, don't park there. Um, have your guests or your visitors park in visitor parking. So that's kind of the things. Your property kind of doesn't determine your success. Your leasing and your discipline and your communication does. Um, so I thought it would be a good idea. We started a little late, but I thought it was a good idea tonight. We're gonna go over a few more things, but these are the tenets that you really want to have things in place and really think about it. You have any questions? We're gonna do a seminar series of kind of get more in depth of how bad leasing can kill occupancy. Um, but I just wanted to make sure tonight we went live and you guys could learn a little something this week of how making sure you have your tenant selection criteria in place. You do your verifications. You send off everything. If you don't know, if there's something that comes up on the application, you should always verify everything that comes up on the application. If they are no longer married and there's divorce, get a divorce decree. If they're not working, get a letter of stating why. If they receive this type of income, receive that information. So you just want to make sure that you kind of follow your rules and your laws, but you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. So, Prep and Prosper. Hope you guys have a great week. Remember, leasing is risk management, and it's not a charity case that we're here. So, um, remember, we're going to start our back with our home inspection kind of, I guess, test or quizzes, because I hope to, and leave a comment on if you had any schools that you went to or kind of any tips. I hope to have the exam completed in the next, more than likely, the beginning of March. Um, so remember, high retention is one thing, but you want to have a good retention with the right applicants and the right residents to build a good community. People that are going to take care of your property. Y'all have a good evening. One bad tenant at a time could destroy you, but we want to have good tenants. Tenants, I'm going to show you too how to be a good tenant. We're going to do videos for you too also. Let's go.